hell, Dominators? You are quite in with me in the last seconds of the World War, and we have won. That's so unfucking... I can't even get it. Guys, look at it. Wow, we did a stalemate. Both have 195 stars, and we won with 0.1% of destruction. Look over here. The rate of destruction declared or decided the World War in the end, and that was so enormous. Guys, I told you, initially we thought the enemy would be way stronger than we, and we would have no chance in the World War. But then after our first attacks and we closed down and 5-starred some really high enemy bases, we thought, okay, we could probably be equal to the enemy, or it could be a little advantage for us. Like I told you in my last World War attack video, I told you, initially, we overestimated the enemy, and now we have to see it is an equal situation when it, if not even some advantage for us, and it was a very little advantage of us. Before the World War began, I would have don't even bet any euro at us. But now, when the World War was just running, I more and more kept and started hoping, and we won by 0.1%, and that's absolute fucking crazy, guys. I can't even believe it. In the last second of the World War, I think 30 seconds were running, the enemies were 1 star back. We had 195 and the enemy had 194, and then 30 or 40 seconds before the World War, the 24 hours of World War end, and the 5 minutes of rest time are beginning. The last enemy number 1, took his chance and took his last attack, and he attacked our Don Vova, our 5th player, and two additional stars were available at Don Vova. 2 stars. So if the enemy would have 5 stars, the enemy number 1 would have 5-starred Don Vova, they would have won with 1 star. If he could get only 3 stars, he had no additional new star, and they would have lost with 1 star. But he only got 4 stars, so netto or in addition, only 1 star in addition, and so we had a stalemate, and then the system began running and began counting out what the number of percentage of destruction, and so we got the win. Guys, this was definitely the closest and most awesome World War we ever had. Wow, definitely really strong. Ordinary, I would say, good game, enemy alliance, but the enemies used the sandbag tactic, and so the number 1 up to enemy number 9 were all the top 9 of the enemy players. Even I think the enemy number 10 were stronger than our first player. They were higher than us, and you probably saw in my attacks that even the enemy number 6 was higher than me. And because of this, I'm not saying good job, enemy alliance. I'm just only saying I'm very happy that we have won, and I'm very looking forward and happy for the next World War. We will search another World War now, but the ordinary topic or the main topic of this video should be the World War base for the Industrial Age with the Forbidden City. Now let's look who we can take with us. What's wrong? Hello? Okay, wow. Why is this touchpad so sensitive? Okay, now it's better, I think. Don Vova, Thor Keko, Crook, David. Oh, Pinkistan is out for the next World War. That's not good. Then I'm the enemy. I'm our number 1, and we have 1 really reliable player less than in ordinary way. Dominic, Hadis, Seashi. Okay. Looks everything okay, I think. I will just look at the statistics, guys, and see which of our players attacked right, and then I'm quite back for the Forbidden City workout layout. So we'll see us in some minutes. I will skip it. So here we are, right back in the World War layout, or in our graphic, which is in color highlighting the specific ranges and the functions of all buildings. And like always and ever before, we are quite starting with the main target of the base, and because it's our World War base layout and we are quite focusing on the Forbidden City and the combination out of Ordinary Town Center and the Forbidden City, this the target of the base layout is quite only to protect from stars or to avoid the enemy getting the quick victory, or at least even all stars for the 100% destruction. So we see all of our resource buildings also on the outside completely unprotected. How do we do this? Let's analyze our defensive rings out of walls, our wall layers, and we can see we have quite only one wall layer for every town center, for the main town center, and also only one wall layer for the Forbidden City town center. But you can see, if you are very detailed watching the video, that the range from the outer side of the wall to the town center is quite so huge that no troop is able to shoot over the walls on the town center, because the range from the outer side of the wall, including the wall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is always 6 to the town center, so that you have to break through the walls or choose another way. We also have the same thing right from the outer sides of the Forbidden City. Only from the inner wall layouts you are just able to reach the Forbidden City from with your artillery and cannons, or even with British ranged fighters from above the wall. That's the main focus we put on our walls when I created this base layout, so that you have to break through or even do something other like rallying in the center of the base. But we will talk about later about the influence on the enemy we want to take. And our target is, or my target was, by separating or placing the walls that far away from our base, that the enemies can or just only simply don't do it, estimate the range correctly, so that they think, okay, probably we can shoot above the wall and then rally on the town center. Because when they are rallying on the town center, the troops are getting spread out, and probably if they are taking from some of our from the corners, the troops are not only spreading out, they are searching the closest and the closest way. And the closest way, like you can see over here are some wall parts missing, also like here in the middle and right in the center. And when the troops are searching the closest way, they will run probably over here, even or especially the healing carts, which are very often running for some wall holes in the wall, because they are very much faster than all other troops. When they are running over here, they are first activating and triggering all of our traps so that they die. But the second effect is also that the larger they are running in the center of the base, they will activate all of our defender spawning buildings. Probably also, if they are strong enough and not dying, activate our fort so that the generals are coming down. And when they are finally in the center of the base, they are getting slowed down by our barbed wire, getting hurt by another landmines. Here is another spike trap, and you see our redoubt right in the middle. But I'm just taking some points which about we will talk, or I want to talk only later with you. First, let's see where are our positions of our town centers right at the map. And you can see from the top down position, we have quite the middle. We have chosen the middle so that they are in the center, but from the left and from the right direction, you can see we have split it up because we have two town centers. There is no sense in putting both two town centers right in the center of the base. So from the left and the right location, we have chosen a very left one and a very right one, but we have to do some compromise with it, because I also played with some thinkings and thought about what would be if we place our town center completely at the right outer side and our Forbidden City completely at the left outer side. That would be in one case even better, but in the other case even worse. And I can totally tell you why. If you have a very large range between both of your town centers, it's at the one hand very good, because it's very much harder for the enemy to rally at a point where the troops can destroy both town centers, or to attack from a side where they can take out the Forbidden City, and then even the town center, the main town center, within the quick victory, 1 minute or even 1 minute and 15 seconds after researching the library. But the another point which is going hand in hand with this point is the point which is getting worse, and this point is that we have only a limited amount of defensive buildings, and we want to that this defensive buildings can cooperate so that they are sharing their ranges of fire and that they can even protect each other. And that is only they are only able to do this if they are a little bit close together at a specific point. So if we would stretch this base layout to the complete left, right, and to the complete left side, when we split up also all of our defensive buildings, they are just not cooperating, and we have probably or obviously two bases which are spread out or completely over the map. So we have to do some compromise and spread the town centers out, but not so far that our defensive buildings can quite not work together. Now we are coming to the point influence on the enemy, and we have some very nice points to influence on the enemy, because if you are aiming for the quick victory, there are only a few methods how you can do it. One of the most common methods I saw with some very experienced and strong fighters is searching a point within the walls where you can rally your troops, and when you are rallying over there, the troops are, if you have chosen the rally point very good, at a specific range to the town center so that they can take both town centers out just from this point. So this point where you have to rally has to be chosen quite well, and that is even not possible in this base, because when you are coming from the top side, there is the Versailles, and every skilled player knows that the Versailles is very slowing down your troops, costing some time, and even getting you some very severe damage to your troops, because the defensive buildings are even able to shoot some seconds, probably some minutes longer when your troops are right in the range of the Versailles and getting slowed down. From the downside, we have our Acropolis with the most defensive buildings right inside of the range, but we'll talk about this later. So we have two ways you can just rally in the middle if you think this is the best way. From the first way is, like I told you, by getting slowed down by the Versailles, and the second way would be to come from the bottom side and get over the Acropolis. But then inside the middle you have the redoubt, you have some barbed wire, you have very much defensive buildings, and you have the mortars and other buildings which have shared ranges of fire right inside the center, so that the fire on your troops will be the highest if you are quite inside the base. The other probably method would be to use demolition tactic, even two or three demolition tactics to get rid of the Forbidden City, and then just only aiming for the main town center. The problem with this is that you just will, like I told you, waste two or three demolition tactics, and if you are probably in the industrial age, let's talk, because this is an industrial age layout, and when you are attacking or when the enemy is attacking this, you only can have 5, if you are Korean, 6 tactics with you. Then you have wasted 2 up to 3 tactics, and you only have half of your tactics available for the rest of the base, and that really weakens your army and your strategy when you have to waste some for the Forbidden City to get the quick victory. So that, I think, is quite strong. The next point I want to talk with you about are the defensive buildings. We are starting, like always before, with the mortars, and you can see we have placed the mortars quite symmetrical inside the base. 2 mortars to protect the town center, the main town center, 2 mortars to protect the Forbidden City, and we have placed them not at the outer side of our buildings or of our town centers, quite at the inner side, because of the point I mentioned already to you, that they share the ranges of fire and build a very compact area in the center of the base where all of the mortars can fire. So if you are right inside over here, all of the 4 mortars will fire at you, and that's what we wanted to reach. You see that these both mortars are nearly supporting and protecting each other. It's very close. You see the red ranges, and that's the range of the top mortar, and the other range from the down mortar, from the bottom mortar. And you also see on the Forbidden City layout, it's a little bit better, because the Forbidden City takes one place or one space less than our town center. The town center has an area of 6 by 6, and the Forbidden City only by 5 by 5. So the mortars are nearly protecting each other. It's a very close decision, but that was not our main point. The main point is that we have here a shared location or a shared area of fire. For every player who probably does not know, let's repeat: the mortars are currently the defensive buildings who have the widest or the largest range which can fire. With the last update 4.7 overseas, the sniper tower got released, and the sniper tower has quite, I think, a range of 28 areas or fields. So the mortar is till this update, it's not the defensive building which can shoot with the largest range, but it's the defensive building which can shoot with the second largest range. And there's also a little blind spot around the mortars, so very close to the mortars cannot fire, and the mortars are very effective only against a high amount of enemy troops. So, for example, like enemy infantry and enemy ranged fighters or enemy marksmen. They are quite ineffective against enemy troops which have a high amount of hit points and which are attacking, yes, like cavalry and even enemy tanks. And because of this, we are trying to compensate our weaknesses by using our cannon towers. The cannon towers are quite working another way around. They have only a very slow frequency or very slow cadence, so they are firing only all 3 seconds, I think. But the other thing is they have no area of damage like our mortars. They have only single hit target or single target damage, so they can only shoot at one enemy every 3 seconds. So they are getting really easy overwhelmed by enemy troops, and they are getting easy overwhelmed by enemy infantry or by a mass of enemy ranged infantry like bowmen or even like marksmen. So we have to compensate both of these weaknesses, and we can do this practically by putting all of these defensive buildings close to another. And you can see right over here, there's always a mortar cannon tower, mortar cannon tower, and the same combination, so that we can perfectly compensate their weaknesses by putting them together, and so protecting the mortars from heavy cavalry and tanks, and to protect the cannon towers from a mass of infantry. We also put the cannon towers right more closer at the edge or at the outer wall layout, because the mortars have quite the a smaller range of fire, a smaller total range, and so we have to compensate this by placing the mortars right more to the inside or to the center of the base, and the cannon towers to the outer side, so that our blue ranges of the cannon towers and the red ranges of the mortars nearly get equally at the outer side of our walls where the enemy will attack. Next, we want to talk about are the air defenses. I have placed 2 of my air defenses and even my strongest air defense to the Forbidden City, because in total the Forbidden City has less hit points than our town center. We are talking about 18 up to 21,000 hit points, I think, depending on the amount of streets you have connected to your town center. And the Forbidden City, I think, only has 2 up to 3,000. It's anything between of hit points, so you can easily takes the town center, the Forbidden City, out with a Zeppelin or even attack of some really strong air units. But we want to avoid this by placing 3 towers over here and also 2 air defense. So you also have to waste some sabotage tactics or even other tactics to get them disabled and then to destroy the town center, but it would has quite the same outcome like you would use 2 demolition or 3 demolition tactics. You definitely have to waste some tactics to get rid of the Forbidden City without taking any disadvantage, and that is already a disadvantage, to waste some tactics to get the Forbidden City down. We have only one remaining air defense right placed at our main town center, and I have placed it next to my top mortar, to my highest mortar, the level 6 mortar, to protect it a little bit. The next we want to talk about are our redoubts. I've placed 2 redoubts over here. They are very close to our gates, right? Our onlyest gates inside the outer wall of our town center base or base layout or wall layout. And we have our 3rd redoubt right in the center. The center redoubt is there because if the enemy is rallying right inside the walls or at the town center or anywhere else, and his troops are deciding to take the closest way and they are going right to the center, they all have to go next to or through the range of the redoubt, and hopefully the redoubt kills very many or even all of them. That was the purpose for placing it right inside of the middle of the base or at the center. Next we have our bunkers. I have placed 1 bunker down down here at the bottom side, one bunker at the top side, to make no symmetric mistakes, so that the enemy thinks, okay, both bunkers are down here, let's attack probably from down here and take both heavy tanks which are coming, or let's attack from the top side to don't activate both bunkers so that they start spawning troops. We have placed them very symmetric, one at the top, one at the bottom side, so that from every direction you are attacking, always there will be some heavy tanks which are attacking you. Another very important point where to place them, I already have mentioned it in many other base layout tutorials. The bunkers are spawning heavy tanks, and the heavy tanks are very attractive for an enemy to take them with the betrayal tactic for his own purpose, and therefore we have to take this as a very severe concern, and that was my purpose, or my aim was to place the bunkers close to the cannon towers. And you can see both of the bunkers are perfectly right inside the range of the cannon towers, and when an enemy now decides to take a heavy tank, the heavy tank instantly gets shot by the cannon towers. And like you can probably see, or like I have mentioned to you before, the cannon towers are very effective against enemies like heavy tanks, because these heavy tanks are only one single target with very high hit points, and that's perfectly for our cannon towers. There is also an additional wall between the tanks and between our cannon towers, so that the tanks cannot even attack the cannon towers or even the mortars or the town center, anything like this. Therefore, I chose these positions of our bunkers. Hopefully it's very useful. Next, we want to talk about our traps. We have 2 traps outside located at our wall gates, at our gates. First, initially, I had no traps over here. I had all of them right focused on the center of the base, but some of my alliance members mentioned that you could also use a saboteur to get rid of some defensive buildings right inside of the walls. But I mentioned, if the saboteur is passing the gates to get right inside, he would activate the town center, and because we are talking about a Worldwar base, there will always, in a good alliance, be some artillery or cannons or even howitzers in the town center, and they are really fast carrying for the enemy saboteurs which would come in and kill them, because the saboteurs are so slow. But another member of my alliance mentioned, what is if you are on purpose disabling the town center with blitzkrieg or even with sabotage? Then the saboteur could deal very severe damage to your important or essential defensive buildings over here, like your mortars or your cannon towers. Therefore, I told myself, okay, that's right. If this situation would appear or happen, it's very important to have some traps over here, and so I put my landmines and the spike trap over here. But our focus, or the main amount of traps, are right in the center. We see here, like I told you, 1 spike trap, landmines, 2 times barbed wire. Down here we have another landmines and some ambush traps, and on top from the castle we have the rest of the ambush traps and 1 more barbed wire. There's 1 barbed wire actually missing, 1 caltrop missing. I researched in the library, and now I got my 6th and for the industrial age, last caltrops. I will place them anywhere, but in this layout they are currently not placed. Therefore, if you have 6 caltrop traps or barbed wire instead of 5, like in this picture, you can just place it anywhere where you think it's good. I quite think it's down here. Another barbed wire would be really good, because we have only 1 over here. But now we have 1 barbed wire over here. Yes, 2 additional ones. So you see over here next to the vault, and 1 next to the house over here. This at the outer side of my base, this barbed wires I put on purpose, because I'm not quite sure, but I think many enemies probably, I'm not quite sure, are going to get rid of the mortars or even at the cannon towers. And when they are rallying on this very essential defensive buildings of ours, the troops will come over here to shoot on these defensive buildings they have rallied on. And because not the tanks and not close combat fighters, but cannons and range fighters are dealing the most severe damage to these buildings, I put my I put my caltrop traps, my barbed wire that far away from the wall and not completely or close to the wall, because the ranged fighters, which probably then attack the mortar or the cannon tower when the enemy rallied on them, are just attacking from over here and are not coming close to the wall because they have range to shoot. Here's the same thing. We are only focusing to slow down and to reduce the damage of enemy ranged troops, which could probably rally on the mortar or on the cannon tower. That was all traps explained, I think. Yes. Next, we want to talk about our world wonders. Initially, at the beginning of the video, I talked a little bit about it, but now we can go to it a little bit more in detail, and we see the Versailles and the Acropolis. And like you probably know, I will remember you, or I will mention it one time more, that the Versailles and the Acropolis, the effect of both, are still staying active no matter whether they get destroyed or not. So you have the slowing down effect of the Versailles and the boosting effect of the Acropolis the whole time active during your attack. The enemy can still doing nothing against it, only destroying these buildings, so that there is no effect anymore. But the slowing down effect from the Versailles is staying active for all attacks, and the enemy can just not disable it. So from this top side, my intention was to place the Versailles right in the center, so that the range of the Versailles perfectly fits right into this ankle of the base. And you see, the yellow range of the Versailles is perfectly fitting to the walls, and we have a complete slowdown right in this section to when the enemy tries to get to the center. And from the bottom side, we see the Acropolis, and right, only to mention it again for the players of you who probably don't know, the Acropolis has two specific main aspects, and one of the main aspects is boosting the hit points, or the amount of hit points from all troops which are getting spawned from buildings which are quite inside the range of the Acropolis. So right inside of this this yellow, sorry guys, right in the range of this yellow circle you can see over here, this is the range of the Acropolis. All defender spawning buildings which are right inside, I have marked for you yellow, and you see right, all of these buildings are spawning now defenders when they are getting activated, which have at least plus 15% additional hit points. The second effect of the Acropolis is that the defenders are getting spawned 20% faster than if they would be not in the range of the Acropolis. So the same buildings I have marked for you yellow are spawning all of their defenders 20% faster, and so our intention is, or the function of it is, that the enemy easily or hopefully gets overwhelmed by the mass of troops which are boosted by the Acropolis. We have the third world wonder over here and the fourth over here, but the fourth world wonder, the Brandenburg Gate, has quite no sense for our defense, therefore we don't have to mention it. And the Forbidden City, our third base layout, or our third world wonder, is quite obviously the sense of it, because it's working as a second town center. Therefore, we are going to the next point, and our next point are our gates. We have focused and placed all of our gates right in the center of the base. Only 2 gates exposed to the right side to get our troops a little bit more frequently, or a little bit better ways through the base on the right side. All of the other gates are, like I mentioned, in the center, so that where at the base you can send some saboteurs in to get rid of the Forbidden City. Therefore, here are no gates placed. Another point I want to mention to you is the using of the space. The space we have available from our exploration. We have spread out all buildings at the maximum amount. Here are always 2 spaces between every building. That means that the enemy has to run, like in all of my other buildings, World War base layouts, I mean, to the maximum amount of range to get rid of all buildings, and hopefully that costs the enemy a little bit of time. This is quite big aspect of the base, but it's quite an important aspect, I think, because it's a little aspect who can differentiate between 4 and even 5 stars, or even less. Therefore, guys, hopefully this video was helpful for you. I'm not quite sure, it's very late in the evening and my English got worse and worse during the video, you probably recognized. Hopefully it's no problem for you. We'll see us soon. Your domination tips.